Today I'm going to be talking about the 39 curses that were given after Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of opposites. Good, bad, right? Like I want, I don't want, like, dislike. And this is versus the tree of life. So the snake, the first one is, and this you can see on dailyzohar.com if you want to see it written out, because this is Kabbalistic information. So first of all, the snake couldn't talk. Limbs removed. Third, eat dust. 4, his tongue connects to the dust of the earth. 5, hated by people. 6, shed his skin and has pain giving birth. 7, gives birth. 8, every 7 years. 8, carries venom. 9, will not be healed in the final redemption. And 10, will die. Man's curses. 1, will have to earn his bread or his light. Energy, right? 2, eat good and generate waste. 3, subject to decay, badness, smells, and then the body will be, we learn in the grave, is consumed by worms. 4, will have in his life things like fleas and flies and lice and pests. Short life. 6, his children will move from one place to another. 7, can be prey for bad animals. 8, always under judgment. 9, will have sufferings. And 10, experience death. The woman's curses. 1, blood of period. 2, blood of hymen. 3, pregnancy. 4, labor pain. 5, sickness through pregnancy and delivery. 6, covers her head. 7, dependent on her husband's light. 8, limited to her home. And 9, quickly gets old. 10, death. The earth, which has 9 curses, bringing this to a total of 39. 1, drinks her own water. 2, also has bad fruits. 3, dryness. 4, can bring out thorns and thistles. 5, will have mountains and rocks. 6, places with no people, plowed with metal tools. 7, can't cover the dead by herself. 8, when men are in judgment, there's many sown seeds. There's many seeds that they sow, bring very little. And 9, can lose its vitality. And now I want to talk a little bit about how to be in anger in a healthy way. And this has come from my research, and also from Dr. Nicole, mainly this is from Dr. Nicole Lepera, known on Instagram as the Holistic Psychologist. She says, some of us also use anger as a distraction, a cover feeling from the emotions like sadness, fear, unworthiness. When we feel vulnerable, we express anger to feel safe. Actions we can do is move, journal or write about it, know when you need a timeout, verbalize it, be compassionate to your inner child, speak kindly to yourself, get in the body. So, I love these things. It can be shaking, dancing, breath work, yoga. 6, don't make decisions. It's not for survival mode. That's not the right time. Lashing out, screaming, hitting walls, breaking things is actually not anger. It's avoiding anger. High reactivity comes from people who fear anger and don't know how to cope with it. So that's pretty interesting that, it's very humbling for me, because I think like, oh, it's the anger. No. It's fear of the anger. It's not being able to handle anger, and it's reacting and trying to be big or trying to be small or trying to make the other, change. Anyway, expressing healthy anger involves saying no, learning to feel anger, with deep breathing, clearly communicating needs, including how I feel, or including how even if we feel like our needs have been ignored or dismissed, we communicate that, right? Because that could be really what the build-up's about, why we became angry, because we were passive. Learning to pause before we expel the anger or externally project it. Notice if anger comes from a pattern of self-betrayal, and safely release anger through screaming and pillow release. These are suggestions from her, from many, guides. But obviously, this is in balance with actually feeling the anger. So if in the beginning, I think and I'll be talking eventually. I'll be doing some videos probably where I talk a lot about the good stuff from Melody Beatty, codependency, no more. So we could say that maybe in the beginning when she makes a good comment. She says, in the beginning, it's like a new toy. Finally, we're allowed to get angry, and we get so angry. We've been feeling shame and guilt about getting angry. It's not okay, right? It's always like losing control. So when we finally have a better relationship with anger, sometimes we notice we're getting angry all the time. And we're going to make some poor, adjustments on the way. But like this idea that I'm sharing, which she also touched on, is that to be able to pause when we get angry doesn't mean that we repress the anger. A lot of therapists actually are not taking deep breaths themselves, are not able to handle, their feelings. And, just because some of us, including me, might know certain things, we don't always have it all 100% in the moment, totally, perfectly patterned response to the moment versus reacting. So it could be that even, the person who's sharing this information with us, Dr. Nicole LaPera, it could be that she represses her anger at times, and yet she's practicing these actions and these healthy choices and learning how to not be controlled by the anger, but how to have, a relationship with what drives anger. And this is just the superficial layer, because under the anger is hurt and, is an innocence. It's a desire. So I want to also share that in Zohar it says Enoch, who went up to heaven without having to die. So that was the reason I bring this up is because I spoke about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and how when they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they were told, when you eat from that tree, you will surely die on that day. So then it became like, this is all one big day, and also that each of us have our day to die. You never know when. So that's like the idea. So Enoch didn't die, and his father was named Yared, which means Jared, which is like to go down. So it's this idea that every time we go down is to go up, and he went down and then went up so high, he didn't die. And another thing from the Zohar is that the light above needs a crude object to cling to below. For example, anger needs something to hold it. It needs a container or an action. And we call this a wick, right? If you have oil and a wick, you need the wick to grab on. The fire needs a wick to grab onto for the oil to burn. So it's like there's this fire that needs something to grab onto. So the anger needs to hold on to something. And like, for example, in the curses, the anger is God was like punishing, right? It's all embodied consciousness. It's all body stuff. It's all body stuff. It's all physical. So it's like it needs something crude to hold on to. And I'm going to stop there in terms of sharing on those topics, but I will be reading the Zohar. It is this is translated by Rabbi Ashlag, the first ever unabridged English translation with commentary. This is the portion of Vayeshev, which is inside of the book of, the 5 books of Moses. So the first portions, Bereshis, Noach, Lech Lecha, right, all the way to Shemos, which is the second book of Moses. This is the portion of Vayeshev, and I'm reading. There's a part that is I'm reading chapter 14 from the portion of Vayeshev. And this is titled Zion and Jerusalem. Here, Rabbi Yehuda discusses the creation of the universal structure that issued from Zion. the central point of faith and perfection. While Zion and Jerusalem are one, they represent the two grades of judgment and mercy. Through Bina, which correlates to understanding, the attributes of mercy and judgment are commingled and reconciled in the world. Throughout life, our actions disrupt and misalign the supernal forces that embody the attributes of judgment and mercy. This occurs on both a personal and universal level, in line with individual and collective actions of humanity. Consequently, judgment may occur in place of mercy. The world may seem especially hard and judgmental towards us. In response, we may find ourselves overreacting to situations where we normally respond with restraint and patience. Balancing these two attributes in our behavior is vital. An example of judgment and mercy is illustrated by the following parent-child situation. A child terribly misbehaves. The parent becomes extremely upset and immediately spanks the youngster. The parent reacted to the situation, and the act of judgment was rooted in selfish frustration. The child might attempt to change his behavior, but he does so only out of fear. Kabbalistically, the parent needs to balance judgment with mercy. That is, sharing and care for the child must be the intent behind any disciplinary action. The parent might still spank the child, but out of love and concern rather than anger and frustration. The child's motivation for change will now be rooted in love and respect, not fear. If a soul descends into a human being from a lineage of Abraham, right column, it is said that the person's nature will be shaped and influenced by the quality of mercy. If a soul descends from the lineage of Isaac, left column, the individual is imbued by a greater proportion of judgment in his nature, and behavior is influenced in this direction. Reading this section helps balances the forces of judgment and mercy in our lives and our interactions with the world. Moreover, these verses open us to the light that we ourselves can be worthy of mercy rather than judgment when the time comes for them to appear in our life. And then it's up to the section inside of the portion 145. So they're divided into paragraphs on this verse, Zion and Jerusalem. Looks like there's 5 paragraphs. Rabbi Huda quoted the verse, Hashem also thundered in the heavens, and the highest gave his voice hail and coals of fire. Hashem is referring to the creator, divine source, the presence that we are all in. And that quote was from Tehillim, the Psalms, by King David. Come and behold, when the Holy One, blessed be, created the universe. That is, when the Holy One, blessed be he, emanated the nukva, called world, or feminine. He made 7 pillars for it by illuminating on her with the 7 sfirot, or attributes. Chesed, loving kindness, or expansion. Gevura, restriction, or boundaries. Tiferet, balance, or compassion. Netzach, legacy, or progression. Hod, majesty and capacity. Yesod, foundation and bonding. Malchut, which is royalty and sovereignty. Of Zer Anpin, which is the tube, the channel of life force coming in. All of them are supported by one single pillar, namely Yesod of Zer Anpin. In the verse, wisdom has built her house. She has hewn out of her 7 pillars. That's what's written in Mishlei by King Solomon. It was explained that they all stand on one grade called Yesod of Zer Anpin. The righteous is an everlasting foundation, it says. 146. When the universe was created, it issued from the spot that included the world with its improvements, which is the point in the middle of the world, which is Zion, the inner Yesod of the Nukva. As it is written, a psalm of Asaph, the mighty one, Elohim, Hashem, or power, power of powers. Hashem has spoken and called the earth from the rising of the sun to the going down thereof, and that's from Psalms. Where did he speak from? From Zion, as is written in Psalms. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, Elohim has shown forth. The place that constructs faith to perfection. Zion is the strength, the secret of the illumination of Chachma, and the point of the whole world, that is the secret of the light of Chasadim, on which the world has been constructed by the Chachma in it, and wherein it is nourished by the light of Chasadim in it. 147. Come and behold, after stating in Tehillim, Hashem also thundered in the heavens. Why add, and the highest gave his voice, which is redundant? Rabbi Huda answers, here is the secret of the faith I mentioned. For Zion constructs and beautifies the world, and the world is nourished by Zion from its 2 aspects, namely Chachma and Chasadim. Right? So Chesed was one of the 7 attributes mentioned earlier. Chachma is another, which is referring to wisdom or illumination. This is similar to the 2 grades that are one, namely Zion and Jerusalem, the former of judgment, the latter of mercy, and both are one. Judgment is issued from one, and mercy is issued from the other. 148 from high up, referring to Bina, which is now the correspondent to Chachma, which is understanding and relating. Relating is a good word for that. Okay. This is the central reconciling column of Bina. When it is heard, so a voice resounds. When it is heard, when it reconciles the nukva, and the lights of right and left are heard, that is, illuminate, judgments issue forth from the nukva, and the paths of judgment and mercy may be seen diverging. Hashem also thundered in the heavens, refers to the merciful court, and also the highest, Bina, may be neither found nor known, because the same voice came out and reconciles right and left. All is then under judgment and mercy. That is, it sustains the illumination of the right and left columns. So it is written, and the highest gave his voice in Tehillim. Once it gave his voice, as the highest Bina gives its voice to the Nukva and reconciles her 2 columns, then came hail and coals of fire, water and fire. And the last paragraph here, 149, come and behold, when Judah was born, it was written in Bereshis, the first book, and she left off bearing. This refers to the 4th of the 4 foundations, called Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, and Malchut. So the expansion, the constriction, the balance, and the dignity or the sovereignty or completion, because they are the supernal chariot of Bina. And this is one of the 4 legs of the throne called Malchut. Therefore it was written with regard to him, and she left it off veering, for he is the last Sphirah. Malchut, it is written of him, and it came to pass at that time that Judah went out from his brothers. In Bereshis it says that. He was their king, being Malchut, but after selling Joseph, he was deposed. Why? Because Joseph was brought down to Egypt. Joseph was one of the 12 tribes, the 11th one. His father was Yaakov. And I hope that was interesting for you, and I look forward to sharing more tomorrow on similar topics. Thank you. Be well.